أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of God, the most gracious, most merciful. Prayers and peace be upon the Holy Prophet and his household. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them and bless them exceedingly. So police brutality is a huge topic that's in the news. And I thought maybe brothers and sisters out there, and not only brothers and sisters, but non-Muslims and other people would understand that Islam has something to say about this, and the religion of Islam has something to say about this. And I live in America, in the United States, and I, of course, experience the same reality of living here as everybody else does, because I'm not isolated. I go out. I live in a city. I work. I have friends. I have colleagues at work, and what I see is basically the root of the problem of police brutality is that although in the United States of America we have a diverse society as far as numbers of people go. So we have a lot of white people, we have a lot of black people, we have a lot of Hispanic people. But the simple fact is these groups live in isolation from each other. And I would say this probably starts in high school, because I went to high school here. And when you go to high school here, almost any high school you go to, doesn't matter whether it's in California, a supposedly very diverse and, let's all come together and sing Kumbaya state. But I went to high school in California, in Los Angeles, and what I saw is you have a lot of different groups of people. You have black people, you have white people, you have Hispanics, you have Chinese, you have Japanese, Vietnamese, other groups. But these groups basically keep to themselves. In high school, you have the tables, so might have a black table, which is all black people. Then you have a white table. You have the jocks table, the white jocks table, then the black jocks table, then the hippie white kids table, then the gangster black kids table, then the heavy metal white kids table. This was in the 80s and stuff. So anyways, so you have all these different groups, but these groups, although they're together in the same space, physical space, they don't really mix together, and they don't do much together. And even when it goes into, after you graduate, when you go into college, and then you graduate from college and you want to buy a house, and then whenever when you want to buy a house, you look at the area. If you're white, you see how many white people are there, how many black people are there, how many Hispanic people are there. If there's too many black people or too many Hispanics, you don't buy a house there, and you buy somewhere else where there's white people. If you live in a neighborhood and you're white and too many black people start moving in, you leave the neighborhood. It's called white flight. It's very well documented. Or if, and the same goes for other groups of people. So then what happens is these groups of people who physically live together in the same city or the same area, but they've lived basically separate the whole life. Now you get a white police officer who sees a black kid or a Hispanic kid on the street, and he thinks, because I grew up in this part of Michigan, or I grew up in California, or I grew up in here, that I know about black people. Oh, I know about Hispanics. Oh, I know about you don't know, because you lived separately from them your whole life, although you lived in the same city. But how many friends did you have that were black? How many colleagues did you have that were black that you actually worked with? I don't think you really had that many. And I'm speaking to you as a white person, okay? Although I'm Muslim and I'm in the Muslim community, so I'm around a lot of diverse people. But I think if I was a police officer on the street encountering a black person or a Hispanic person, a typical white person, I wouldn't know much about them. So when they do something or they say something or they make some move or I'm going to interpret it a completely different way than a black person might interpret it. And this is the root of the problem. The America, although does not encourage people to mix together, whereas whereas Islam definitely encourages it. Islam says there's many hadiths that are accepted by both Shia and Sunni and everybody that says there's no difference between a black person and a white person, between an Arab, between a non-Arab, between a Persian and an Arab, except in terms of piety. Okay? In other words, in terms of taqwa, in terms of their closeness to God and how close they are to God, how much they obey God and they obey the religion. And there's a difference there between Christianity and Islam, but because Christianity, or what has come to be Christianity in the modern day, which is Protestant, mostly in the United States, the big churches are Protestant evangelical Christianity. It's based on, they say it's based on faith, not works. So if you have a certain faith, then you're considered a Christian. It doesn't matter what you do or what your works are as far as God being pleased with you and getting into heaven. Whereas Islam says, in order for you to be saved and for you to get into heaven, you have to do works, and those works are based on your effort and your piety, and your effort and your piety is the same in the sight of God, whether you're a black person, whether you're a white person, whether you're a Hispanic person, whether you're a Chinese person or a Japanese person or a Vietnamese person or a Russian or for a Brazilian, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it says amanu wa amilu salihat. You believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you do good works. And the Quran never ever mentions race, and those things when it comes to that. So Islam, as a religion from the very beginning, although definitely if you look at the Muslim people today, you see there's problems, there's racism, there's isolation of certain groups. But at the same time, you also see a lot of incidences in many places, in many countries, of people where they're not isolated and where they live together, and they consider themselves and other people just as much of Muslims as other people. And that's why, for example, when we do the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, the pilgrimage to Mecca is something that everybody is required to do at least once in their lifetime. And in the pilgrimage to Mecca, you go there and you see that everybody is there together: white people, black people, Pakistanis, Afghanis, Iranians, Russians, people from the United States, Europeans, people from South America. They're all there together, and they're doing the Hajj together, and they're required by their religion to do this. And when you do this, you mix with other people. But in the United States, there's not one single point in our lives from when we're born to when we die where we're required to interact with people from other what we call other races or other countries. We're never required to do that. You can live as a white person. If you live in an area that's all white people, you can go to work, go to school, live, be born, and die in that area without ever having any kind of a real substantial interaction with anybody who's not white. And there's a lot of white people in this country that happens to. At the same time, if you're black and you live in an area that's basically all black people, which there's a lot of areas in this country that are, you can go through your whole life without having any kind of a meaningful interaction with anybody who isn't black, who isn't, African American, from your same thing. So what happens is when now these people who've been isolated their whole lives and have never had any contact with anybody else, and then all of a sudden they meet in a situation that's dangerous, that's a dangerous situation on the street, and something's happening, you get what you get now. You get police brutality. You also, on the other side, you get black people and other people who will, assault police officers and things like this. So it goes both ways, but at the same time, because the police have the power of the government, they're a lot more because with power comes responsibility. When you're a lot more responsible as far as what you do, and many police officers don't take that responsibility seriously, and they think, I'm just here to do a job, whatever, I'm going to do my job. So this is the problem, and it's leading to a lot of chaos and disorder. So what people need to understand is that Islam has the solution for ending police brutality. And the way you end police brutality is that the police, number one, you interact with people that are not exactly like you. And in Islam, if you went to the Hajj or something, you're required to do that. It's not an optional thing. And the second thing is that you think of the other person as a human being, and not as just and don't assume that they're guilty until they're proven innocent, which is what you usually do with people that you've never had any interactions with. So this is the main point. And inshallah, we can as a country adopt some of the parts of Islam that are supposed to be done in society, and the reason why they're there and the reason why they're that way is in order to solve problems such as police brutality. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.